Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Resilience with your host, Brad Neufeld. This is the show where you will discover that every challenge that you face in life is conquerable, especially when we work together. Working together with other people, helping us solve our challenges is by far the best way to get through this life and make it very exhilarating and fun. It's boring being on your own and by yourself, as I think my guest will back me up on this today. But anyway, thank you for listening to the show. I'm Brad Neufeld, and I'm glad to be your host here today. Our guest today is Wendy Spooner, and Wendy I'm excited for this interview because of the topic that you have. I've been very interested in this for a long time, and yet you just seem to have this passion about it. And so I'm excited to explore this. But Wendy is a professional genetic genealogist by day and a writer by night and an artist in between. When do you have time for all this stuff, Wendy? She's the owner of Know My Roots Genetic Genealogy, the author of the best-selling novel, Once Upon an Irish Summer, and a national officer for Daughters of the American Revolution over art and sculpture in the annual American Heritage Contest. In her spare time, whenever you have that, she loves to hike, camp, binge on Bollywood movies. I'd like to explore that a little bit, and also spend time with her greatest loves, which is her family. Wendy, thank you so much for being on with me today.
Hi, Brad. I'm so excited to be with you today and talk about all these things, all of them, whatever you want.
Absolutely. Well, what started your passion with genealogy? Because this is definitely something that I think most people, once they reach a certain age, whether that's 40, 50, 60 in there, they start thinking, I want to know more about my ancestors. But like me, I know I have a passion for it. I want to know more, but yet I'm busy doing other things and whatnot. And so how did you get this passion for it? And tell us a little bit about how this has kind of driven you to be who you are today.
Well, I come from a wonderful family who documented many generations back. And so I grew up hearing stories from my grandparents, and I adored my grandparents. So I listened to them because I loved them and I knew that they loved me. And so as I grew up, I had already developed this interest in history and my family together. And I've always been drawn to anything historical in a really crazy way. Like if there's a no trespassing sign and I'm at a historical site, I want to get over that no trespassing sign more than I can even describe to see what they're
rebel.
not letting me. And I won't say if I actually go over those signs or not, but
Yep.
There's just this pull to history that I've had for as long as I can remember. And the stories that you can find in your family history, and I mean anyone's family history, are so inspiring. And they're much stranger, much more exciting, and way more inspiring than anything you'll ever find in fiction.
Okay.
And I was actually halfway through my master's in marriage and family therapy 10 years ago, and I wanted to help especially blended families because my husband and I blended our family of 5 little girls that were then 5 teenagers all at the same time. And
well, no wonder Tony is who he is today. I'll let you decide what that is. Never mind.
you know exactly what you're saying, and there's so much truth to that. But it's a really hard thing to do. And so I was on my way to becoming a marriage and family therapist to help blended families. But in my spare time, I was always researching my family tree and looking into other people's families' trees. And I just had something click inside of me where I thought, there is something else here that I am supposed to pursue that involves helping families instead of
your heart.
So I started looking around for graduate degrees in genealogy, and at first there were none. So I just kept on my path in my graduate school for becoming a therapist. But then I found a graduate program at the University of London. And because of the feudal system, century after century in England, the Brits are the best genealogists in the world.
Hmm.
So I knew that this was a program that I wanted to look into, and I switched programs the very next day after I saw what they were offering.
Wow. So do you find this from Britain? Do you think why they're so interested? Well, most of our ancestors obviously came from that region there. And
Yes.
so maybe it's perhaps because that's where it all started, kind of, sort of.
Yes, the history
Okay.
of why
Mhm.
records were even um,
Yeah.
starting to be kept
Hmm.
started with King Henry VIII, and
Hmm.
he did it for tax reasons, and so he could keep track of how he could pull in all the money from the citizens. But today we have all of these birth records, baptismal records, and marriage records because of a very different reason than he originally started it to be. So just the history of why records were created in itself is fascinating.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. And so at what point, so you went to college, you found your degree, where to go, and then what did you decide from there? Did you learn anything in your studies that just took it to another level?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to become a professional genealogist
Hmm.
to help people connect to their roots and find their family. But I attended the largest genealogical conference in the world in 2012, which is
Hmm.
called Roots Tech. It takes place in Salt Lake City, and now it's also taking place in London every year.
Wow.
And I went to a particular lecture given by a genetic genealogist, and her name is Cece Moore.
Okay.
And after I met her, I learned so much from her year after year. And she talked about this new genetic genealogy where you could take a DNA test and
Hmm.
you can connect to people and relatives that you didn't even know existed,
Wow.
that you really couldn't find through records, or you maybe wouldn't make the connection through traditional research.
Hmm.
And that was when I kind of went crazy, because at this time in our family, my husband and I were given this box by his parents when they moved. And my
Hmm.
husband's father was adopted. And we'd been given no information about anything that had ever been discovered about Tony's father's biological family.
Hmm.
But Tony's mom had done this research on the side that she hadn't revealed to anybody. And I was looking at a binder full of pictures and documents of this family we knew
Holy
nothing
cow.
about. And
Wow.
Tony's dad had never wanted to pursue finding this family because he didn't want to upset them. He thought they
Mm.
probably didn't know he even existed. He was adopted. You never know the circumstances.
Right,
But
right.
Tony was looking at 8 biological uncles and aunts in a picture that looked
Holy
so much
cow.
like his dad.
Mm.
He said, I want to find them. I don't know how my dad's going to feel about this, but I want to find them. And
Mm.
so very soon after, I looked through all the messages. And I thought, what's the fastest way I could find these people? And it was through Facebook, because I
Mm.
thought, what if these uncles that Tony has, these biological brothers of his father, what if they have sons on Facebook
Oh,
that
yeah.
have the same names? Because
Hmm.
2 of these siblings had already passed away, and this is an older crowd that may or may not have been on social media. So I thought, I'm going to go after their kids. And sure enough, I found 2 sons with the same names as their fathers, and I sent them messages. And this was on a Sunday morning, and Tony and I
Hmm.
had gone to church, and I was sitting there, and I said, oh my goodness, by the way, I reached out to 2 people I found on Facebook, and I don't know what's going to happen. And Tony was like, you did what?
You did what?
I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. But
Mhm.
within 48 hours, to make a long story short, I sent a picture of Tony's dad to his biological family. It went viral. And within 2 days, Tony's dad had 2 siblings drive to his place of residence in Minnesota to meet him. And he was embraced with open arms.
Wow.
And this family
What?
said, we wish you would have found us earlier.
Hmm. Wow, this is sending chills down my spine. The connection, this, anyway, keep going, please.
And that is why I became a genetic genealogist, to help
Hmm.
adoptees find their biological families. Because I thought, if I can give this experience to other people that is life changing, I can't
Hmm.
think of anything better I would like to do.
Oh, fantastic. Well, the term genetic genealogist, this is actually the first time I've heard that. So is it, what type of specialty is it? Do you study different things other than just, again, how to find ancestors, or is there, are
Well,
you
you start with the
specifically
DNA test.
okay.
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Start with
So
a
you
DNA
start with
test.
DNA
Wow.
testing, and today there is ancestry DNA, there's My
Hmm.
Heritage DNA, there
Hmm.
is 23andMe, and there is Family Tree DNA, and there are other companies cropping up that use DNA testing strictly for genealogical purposes, except for 23andMe. They're also very into health reports. If you want to know about your health as far as ancestry goes, which is also really fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard that things obviously get passed on through our DNA from, over many years, and they're just discovering all of these wonderful things. And so this is how a person, if they're interested, would get into it, right? They would go after this particular field of study, the genetic genealogist, to find out more about that.
You can go to the International Society of
Mhm.
Genetic Genealogist's website, and
Okay.
that is the best place to start to find out what you want to know
All right.
about the field.
And as you're doing this, what challenges did you face in were there times along the way where just life just got in your way and you had to choose, well, do I really want to do this? Do I not? But then you just bulldozed over it. I mean, have you had stuff like that happen?
Well, when I was in graduate school
Hmm.
with the University of London,
Okay.
I cannot tell you how busy that time in my life was. I had kids getting married. I had grandchildren being born.
Hmm.
I had so many things going on with my church service and all the things that many of us stay busy with. And there was times when I thought, I'm not going to get an A in this class, and I'm not
Right.
okay with that. But that was kind of the extent to which I was frustrated with
Mhm.
just how much time we all don't seem to have when we're pursuing something. But my passion drove me through it, through not sleeping a lot because I was studying late at night, and all those things because I was going to achieve this goal. It was exactly what I wanted to do.
You showed resilience.
Extreme resilience.
And that's one of the things that I know our audience likes to hear stories like this. They ask me about it all the time. Give me a real life scenario where somebody's actually overcome this particular challenge, and I just smile and I go, and you'd be
Yeah.
surprised how many people are going through the same challenge you're going through, but yet you were able to persist and keep going, which again, bless your heart. Thank you so much for setting that example for everybody. So as you're overcoming these challenges, how did that make you a better person?
I think that you learn a lot about yourself, especially about what you are most passionate about.
Hmm.
Because as you find you have limited time, the things that you are not passionate about will fall by the wayside. And
Hmm.
you will zone in on really who you are and what your greatest purpose is on this earth.
Mm. And when you discovered that, was that process of finding that thing, how difficult was it? Because again, this is another thing that my audience loves to hear, because they have never been able to find that. At what point did you go, you know what, this is me. This is what I'm doing this. There's nothing that's going to stop
Yeah.
me. What was it like when you finally reached that point?
Well, when I was in my master's degree for marriage and family therapy, and I
Mhm.
looked at the wasted time, the
Mhm.
wasted money, the school loans that I was still going to have to
Oh yeah.
pay when
Mhm.
I chose to switch the
Mhm.
graduate programs. That was another thing where it's like, no, I'm 100% doing this. This is it. And it's just
Mhm.
if something drives you that much that you know there's going to be consequences that you are going to have to pay to pursue your greatest dream, you
Mhm.
have found your path.
But it's worth it, isn't it? It's
And
worth it
it's
when you.
so worth it.
Oh, it's
I wouldn't
awesome.
trade any of it.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk. Let's crack open the book here a little bit. So, your book, "Once Upon an Irish Summer," it's the description you sent me is it's a gifted artist suffering from debilitating grief. She finds healing and inspiration in her Irish ancestry, and goes on to paint a masterpiece. Is this
Yes.
a fiction story or is it real?
So it is a dual timeline
Ooh,
historical
okay,
fiction. So
okay.
the historical chapters are based on a United States historical figure, and this is his untold story of crossing the Atlantic alone, leaving Ireland as a teenager by himself to find a way to save his family. And it's who and what he became in the United States that still inspires me today.
Wow.
And the present day timeline is his fictional descendant 5 generations later, who is a struggling teenager. And I wrote this story this way because of the study by Emory University with the results that were released, I think it's about 6-7 years ago now, that they did on youth who knew their family history or didn't. And it was the result of that study that I want to inspire teenagers to delve into their own family trees, because it gives them a better sense of who they are in this world, a stronger identity. And the study also showed that they have a greater faith in the successful functioning of their own family. And they also proved to be more resilient to life's challenges.
Wow.
And what's one of the things? What's one of the things we see in youth today? They're not resilient. They're crushed by anything they don't win.
No, and exactly. And if it doesn't come easily to them, it's out next. I'm moving on to something else. And I as you know, I work with at-risk teens and things like that. And so, I'm seeing this phenomena happen here, and I'm like, oh my gosh. How do we crank up the pain on these teenagers? Anyway, I'm joking, of course, but you're right. It's like, where's the resilience now? And so it's just like what we're going through right now with the coronavirus. Obviously, it's been interesting to see the meltdown of teenagers just because they can't go and be with their friends.
Absolutely.
Like, there are harder things in life, guys, than this, but you can still stay connected through your social media. We didn't have that back when I was young. I don't know about you. Well, you're a lot younger than me. So anyway.
Not even.
So anyway, that's funny. So now you've hit on something here that is very intriguing to me. So it helped them find their purpose. I loved how you said that, because that is something that I'm passionate about, helping others find that, because I know that's where the true motivation kicks in. It's hard to be motivated by some external thing that people are pushing you to do. And so from your studies, Wendy, what can a person, are there specifics that they can find by finding out in their ancestry that will help them to find that thing? Are there specific things you look for?
Well, I can tell you some very interesting experiences that I personally have, and these can be signposts for anybody. So there are numerous studies that show that we not only just inherit DNA from our ancestors, but we inherit memories of those ancestors in our DNA.
Ooh, okay.
My entire father's family, so my great-grandfather immigrated from Scotland, and that entire line is Scottish for as far back as you could ever dream of finding records. Anytime I hear bagpipes in a parade, I cannot even tell you what happens to me physically. There is something that lights a fire in me that connects me to my Scottish ancestors that I cannot describe. And I believe it has to be that memory. So as you start delving in to your family tree, you're going to start finding the things about you that you're finding about them that you're most passionate about.
Right.
You will not believe the opportunities and possibilities that will open in your mind and in your heart.
Holy cow. I'm hitting this at the right time. I'm telling you, I have lots of motivation. You know me. I'm always, let's go. Come on, baby. Let's make a difference in life. That being said, this word struggle isn't the right word. I've been fascinated by, why do I have the desires that I have? Why? Because again, I've had a strong passion to work with people my whole life since I was young. Matter of fact, when people ask me, well, when did your counseling, your love of counseling start? I said at age 13. And they're like, what? It was just something that I liked when people would come up to me and just tell me all of their challenges, their things that they've been going through about their parents and their ups and downs and all of that. And I would just sit there and listen in fascination. And then I'd have people tell me that was the best conversation I've ever had with anybody. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. All I did was listen. And so I just found this love for that early on, and helping people to, again, overcome the challenges of life. And so that's kind of my theme. And I kind of fell into it myself, but yet I've always wondered that. Why do I feel this way? Why am I so different from my brothers and sisters and friends who think I'm nuts for caring at that level, if you want to say that?
You're one of the easiest people to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
Coupling that with being a good listener, yeah, you have found your niche.
Yeah. Well, I love it. That's for sure. But you're saying if I start to dig a little bit, I'll find out some of these things, you think?
You will. You'll find connections that will blow your mind.
Wow.
And they will only add to who you are and make you a stronger individual on this earth.
Well, I was born loving English toffee, so there might be that in there too.
Yeah. I love it too. Oh my God.
That's funny. Well, Wendy, let's get more into this. We need to take a commercial break really quick, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more to Wendy Spooner and about her book. It's already out, correct?
Yes, it was released on April 3rd.
April 3rd, fantastic. But her book, Once Upon an Irish Summer, and it's all about genealogy. Wendy is a genetic genealogist, and we're going to explore a little bit more about this fascinating stuff here. So when we get back from the break, we're going to jump right back in.
I'm author Richard Paul Evans. Several years ago, I asked author Mary Higgins Clark the secret to her success. She said, "Richard, I try to make every book my best. I've tried to do the same. My readers deserve that. And sometimes magic happens. I think you're going to love my new book, Noel Street." My agent cried 9 times. Even the woman recording the audiobook had to take breaks because she couldn't stop crying. Noel Street is the story of a mother's love and forgiveness. I can't wait for you to read it. That's Noel Street, on sale November 5th.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Griffiths. I'm an abuse and trauma therapist, and I'm the host of the Becoming the Light from the Shadows of Abuse podcast. And I invite you to join me every Monday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, right here on 5 Kingdoms Radio, where I share stories to inspire women who are stuck in their abuse story and situation. And if you want to help me make an impact and bring about change and have a story to tell that seems to fit the bill, then please come on my show and share for others to benefit. And you can contact me at my email, sarah@sallyg.com. That's sarah@sallyg.com. And I really look forward to hearing from you.
Have you ever gone through a hard time? If you have, I'm sure you have at one point thought, nobody understands what I'm going through. My name is Tamara K. Anderson, and I'm the host of Stories of Hope in Hard Times. Join me on Resilience Talk Network, Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. to hear the stories of other people who have been through hard times and come through with hope, faith, and some tips that you can benefit from.
Welcome to the Resilience Talk Network. My name is Jay Walter, and I'm the host of Rebuilding, heard every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. You can listen in and learn how to face your fears, overcome obstacles, and make dreams a reality. So listen every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Resilience Talk Network.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld. Thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. All right, and welcome back to Resilience. I'm your host, Brad Neufeld. Again, we have our guest here, Wendy Spooner. Wendy is the author of the book that's already out, Once Upon an Irish Summer, and we're going to delve a little bit more into that story. Before we do, what are there any other things, Wendy, that people can look forward to in this book before we get into the story? Because that's fascinating as well.
Well, this story, really the purpose of this story is to show how learning about your ancestors can help you move past your own life's crises. Because once you find out what your ancestors overcame, and this is a true epic story in the historical chapters of what this young man was up against to save his family, you'll see how maybe your life's problems aren't so difficult. And if they are, you'll find inspiration to overcome what you're dealing with.
Well, and I'm fascinated that you chose the storyline to be around a teenager. So somebody very young in age was inspired to say, you know what, I'm confused and I want to know exactly what's going on in my life. So share a little bit more about the story and the challenges that your character had to overcome.
Okay, so in this story, like a typical teenager, Beth has her whole summer planned out. She's a gifted artist and she just wants to paint all summer and hang out with her friends when she's not painting. Well, her family goes through some difficult financial crises and she has that plan ripped out right from under her. And she's forced to get a summer job. She's never had a job before. And her grandmother hires her to become a research assistant in researching a particular ancestor that the grandmother is writing a book on. This is the last thing this girl wants to do. She can't stand history. It's her worst subject in school. So she's forced out of her comfort zone into something she doesn't want to do at all. And she finds out that it was life-changing in the end.
And so anyway, when you said that teenagers need to read this too, so that they can hopefully instill that and be inspired by that story to think, okay, maybe I should find out more. Do you think, have you had any examples or any, not examples, experiences with that happening already, either with some your kids or with some other kids around you that have read this?
Yeah, so every single youth that has read the book has said to me, I want to find out what's going on in my own family tree.
Holy cow.
And all the adults too, like almost 75% of my book reviews say, I want to look at my own family tree now. Or they'll say, if you weren't interested in family history before, you will be after reading this book. And so it's got the purpose of why I wrote it. It's working. The book has power.
Were there times when you got, because the writing process, I know I've been through it as well, you get to points where you get stuck. What were some of your sticking? You're laughing, so I'm assuming it happened.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What happened when you got stuck?
Well, first of all, I was pretty crazy to write my first novel in dual timeline. Because the way you need to weave the past in and out of the present to make it a likable, lovable story that a person can follow, just that one thing. This book took me 3 years to write.
Wow.
And it started with, I wrote the first 6 chapters and my laptop fell out of my car, crashed on the cement, and nothing was retrievable from it. So I lost the first 6 chapters. And that's when I went, okay, how committed am I to writing this story? I have to start over. And it was 1 second for me to say, okay, I'm starting over. That's how important I felt it was to write this book.
And did you find new things from the process, from your computer being destroyed? Did you come up with new things to put in there? Okay.
The first 6 chapters became much better because I started over and learned from what I had already written. Okay, no, this is going to be better if I do it this way. This chapter needs to be much bigger here. Yeah, it was one of those things where it was a happy accident, even though I was devastated at first.
A happy accident. Can I borrow that?
I think that's as old as the guilt, right?
Yeah, that's true. I know however, it's so interesting how human beings can see that, the water glass half full, half empty. They can see those type of challenges as something that's just getting in their way and stopping them from realizing their dreams, or they can look at it as a springboard. It's so interesting how perspective plays into that, I think. And so you have a lot of that in the book where the character had to decide that they hit these roadblocks maybe, and they went, ooh, what should I do here?
Yes, because when Beth, she has this summer painting that she has to complete for her private art teacher, and it has to knock his socks off or he may drop her as a student because she's been so stuck. So throughout the whole summer, she is so worried about this painting, and as she's going through this research on this ancestor, ideas are starting to turn over in her mind, but she's struggling so much as she's trying to figure out something new to paint that she's just going through canvas after canvas and nothing is working for her. And kind of the same thing happens as she's researching, because she doesn't listen to her grandmother at first when her grandmother says, you need to document each source as you're researching it, or you are going to forget where you've been before. So she goes through the struggle of, okay, but now I have to start over and research because I don't even know what I looked at. And so it's, the learning curve of, you know what, do it this way. It'll be much easier instead of teenagers thinking they always know it's the right way to do things.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, talk about the writing process with this. You said you love to write, and I have a belief that every person walking today has a story in them.
They do.
And that story that they have can help someone else out there in a big way. And so what advice would you give to people who feel like, well, I'm not a writer? I mean, where you had to start somewhere. What is it? Did you just start with a notepad and just scribbled things down? Where did you start, and where did this passion just emerge from?
Well, I had been a professional writer of articles for my field.
Okay.
And that's very dry stuff. And for me, I'm not a dry person at all. My personality is not dry on any level.
No. You're always happy, Wendy. Every time I've seen you, you're always happy.
Well, life is pretty good. It really is for,
fantastic.
I think, a lot of us, even with the ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I just had something click in me when I wanted to write Alan Hamilton's story was in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
I was researching his records with my husband and my parents in these little towns flanked by castles and ancient town halls, and in going to a minister's house out in the countryside because he was the keeper of the records of the church of hundreds of years in his own home. And as I connected to Ireland and to the people that I come from that lived there, and then to a particular ancestor who's what he overcame and his stellar character blew me away. It was like, I've got to write this guy's story.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was the epitome of the American dream. And I love this country. As a member of Daughters of the American Revolution, I was born into a very patriotic family, but that has just exploded in my heart, how blessed we are to live in this country.
Absolutely. Oh, if we could just get that message out there.
To the young generation.
Yeah. Well, dang it, let's do it, Wendy. We're doing it. Okay. I got your back, you got mine. Let's get that message out there. But we live in such an awesome country, and there's more, I just believe there's more opportunities to succeed right now. And in pretty much anything that you can dream of, there's more opportunities now than at any other time in history. But yet the human behavior pattern just keeps people locked down. And I've explored that most of my career. How do we bring that out of people? And I've been able to do it on a individual basis. It's just been challenging to do it as a group, to get a whole group of people to change. It's an individual thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Where you just have that feeling of, you know what, I want to be better than what I'm doing right now. But if a person has that, they can succeed. How do you feel about that?
Well, back to teenagers.
Yeah, please.
I was such a struggling teenager. There were things that happened in my family that just knocked me into a different orbit for a few years. And what I see kids having access to today, as far as their family histories and how they can get on a keyboard and they can find any record they want.
I know.
In their family. If I had that as a teenager, maybe my path wouldn't have been so hard.
Yeah.
Maybe if I had been able to connect really easily at that time in my life, the lights would have come on for me much earlier than they did.
Right. So yeah, well, explain a little bit about that. So if there is a young person listening to this today, when it started, we didn't have the computers like we have today. We didn't have all that stuff. I mean, it wasn't quite stone tablets, but maybe your husband, Tony, maybe he had the stone tablet. No, anyway, I'm just teasing. But love you, Tony. Anyway, but talk about that. What did you have to do in order to uncover some of these histories back before the internet?
Well, you had to actually go to an archive.
Wow.
So if your family came from, if they immigrated from a country, you had to go to that country. But the archives, even in foreign countries, even 20, 30, 40 years ago, they were not nearly accessible as they are now. So when we went to Ireland, a lot of their tourism now is people coming, searching for their family history records. So they are just open arms. What can we do to help you? Because it adds so much to their tourism, which is a huge part of the industry in Ireland. And that is true for other countries as well. So yeah, when I was a teenager, I didn't even think that it crossed my mind to say, where do I even find a record about our ancestors? We just really didn't think that way yet. And I had a great uncle who never married, and all he did was work on our family history research. And he spent all his time traveling, and he was in archives all over the place. But it took so much time back then. It was just a different story than how easy it is for us today. And that's huge. Teenagers, we know that technologically, they seem to be born already knowing how to use technology.
Yeah, they do.
We're adults, we have to work at it.
Well, and I've done my own little studies on this. It's so interesting. You hold up a cell phone and a ball. The kid goes for the cell phone. Why? Anyway, it's like, okay, here's a candy bar. Here's a smartphone. Of course, they go for the smartphone. I don't get it. But you're right. I totally 100% agree with you there. They're just born with this natural, it's part of their DNA.
Exactly.
So I had to start somewhere. Oh, fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's take one more quick break. When we come back, I'd like to explore a little bit more about your company, if we could, and some of the services that you may offer. Know My Roots, Genetic Genealogy. And let's talk about that a little more, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. Our guest today, Wendy Spooner, author of the book. Here we go. I know the author of the book. Anyway. Oh, come on. Anyway. Once Upon an Irish Summer. Thank you. Man, talk about, never mind. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever gone through a hard time? If you have, I'm sure you have at one point thought, nobody understands what I'm going through. My name is Tamara K. Anderson, and I'm the host of Stories of Hope in Hard Times. Join me on Resilience Talk Network, Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. to hear the stories of other people who have been through hard times and come through with hope, faith, and some tips that you can benefit from.
Hello, everyone. This is Brad Neufeld, host of Resilience. You can catch my show every morning at 8 a.m., Monday through Friday, right here on the Resilience Talk Network. Tune in to discover what it takes to overcome any challenge that you may face in life. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome to the Resilience Talk Network. My name is Jay Walter, and I'm the host of Rebuilding. Heard every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. You can listen in and learn how to face your fears, overcome obstacles, and make dreams a reality. So listen every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Resilience Talk Network.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Griffiths, the producer of Becoming the Light from the Shadows of Abuse podcast. And you can listen to my show every Monday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, right here on Five Kingdoms Radio.
When the summer has passed, the harvest is.
All right, and we're back here on Resilience. I'm your host, Brad Neufeld. We're on with Wendy Spooner today. We've talked a lot about her book today, Once Upon an Irish Summer, but now in this final segment here, Wendy, let's talk about your company, Know My Roots Genetic Genealogy. Okay, we've talked a little bit in the first segment about what genetic genealogy is. Now, how do you help others who are, let's say they're intrigued by what we're talking about here too, and they want to find out more? What do your services provide?
Well, I have a special niche in the professional genealogy world, which is I work with adoptees who want to find their biological roots or their biological families. And I connect them, starting with DNA testing and then genealogical research through records, because you can't do it with just DNA testing. You have to start with the DNA test, and then with traditional records, you can build out a tree to find biological family. And it's getting a little bit easier than it used to be because the databases are filling up with people. And that just means more cousin connections once you take a DNA test that are going to show up in any given database. And one thing to know is that if you are an adoptee, you should take a DNA test with every single genealogical database that there is out there so that you can essentially go fishing in every pond.
Okay,
Because
so
there's
because
no
each of them
crossover.
have different records, obviously.
Well, there's just no crossover between the databases.
Okay.
So you're going to get different relatives that show up in each separate database, which then you can compile into one tree and then funnel it down to a time and a place where an adoptee was conceived, born, all of those things that you're looking for. It's detective work, no doubt, and I absolutely love what I do.
Do you find people get, for lack of a better term, addicted to the searching? I know this one man across the street from me years ago. He just got, for some reason, just had this inspiration. I want to find out about my ancestors. And he just would call me every other night. Oh, you're not going to believe whom I'm related to, some king in Scotland and all this. I'm like, okay, he just keeps going and going and going. And then all of a sudden he comes back to me and goes, oh, I decided to start finding out more about my wife's genealogy. There was one of her ancestors actually came over on the boat with Columbus. And I'm like going,
Goodness.
holy cow. And that kind of, stirred something in me. Maybe I'm afraid to know. My guy was, maybe mine was locked in prison for years and beaten. I don't know. Just teasing. But
Well, you know what? The fact that you just said that is really important because embracing your entire family history, especially the people that really struggled, and learn from them and honor them, and then you stand on their shoulders to become someone even better.
Wow.
Because I believe that we can heal past generations by the choices we make today.
Fantastic. Well, I know in your book, I loved this this one saying that you had in there about it was right there at the very beginning. Anyway, I'll look it up here while we're talking. But anyway, there's that part there is fascinating because to me, is there a better way to give your life purpose? Is that? I mean, that's just so fascinating to see that they prepared the ground. Because I know this about parents, because I've worked with over 3,500 families in my career. I have yet to be one set of parents that doesn't want two things for their kids. They want them to be safe and they want them to be happy.
Yes.
Okay? And the other thing is parents work till their dying days to prepare themselves so that their child doesn't have to go through what they went through. That's another aspect of parents. They love their kids so much. They don't want them to suffer. They don't want them to go through the ups and downs, although that's part of the 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 growing process. Sometimes we have to step back as parents and let our kids go through that. That being said, to look back and think, okay, what did my ancestors want for their kids? And then what did they want for their kids, which eventually would lead up to here. And here's your saying here. It says, I am bound to them, although I cannot look into their eyes or heart or hear their voices. I honor their history. I cherish their lives. I will tell their stories and remember them. Author unknown. Wow, that was powerful when I read that.
Yes, that's what it's about.
That's what it's about. Holy cow. And so tell us some of the stories that you've, people finding that you've helped find that. How has it changed their life?
Oh my goodness. The number one thing that I get to personally witness is a hole that is filled in a person's identity. And I wasn't adopted, but my father-in-law was adopted. And I hear the same thing over and over. There is a piece of people missing. And even if the biological parents have passed away, even if there's nobody left alive that they can actually meet, still knowing who they were, seeing their records, and learning about their lives does the same thing. It fills that hole in their identity.
Wow. Well, if anybody's listening to this today and wants to get a hold of you or find out more about what you do, how do they do it?
You can reach me at wendywilsonspooner.com, or you can reach me at wendy@knowmyroots.com.
Okay, that's your company?
Yes, or you can give me a call at 602-214-2930.
Wendy, this has been fascinating. I am so honored to have you on the show here, and your passion is contagious. I just want you to know that. And holy cow, let's change the world, make it a better place. And I believe this is a place to start, because sometimes the healing anyway, this is what that's just churning inside of me right now. This could heal a lot of wounds.
Yes.
I mean, I know we've kind of touched on that, but I don't think people are actually understanding that part of it just yet. To see what their ancestors have gone through, maybe to give them a greater appreciation with that, and go, well, man, maybe my life isn't so bad right now. Maybe I am blessed. Maybe have some appreciation towards my ancestors because they did work so hard to give us this good environment that we have today.
Yeah.
So
there's a quick last story I can share with you.
Yeah, please.
So my marriage to my children's father failed, and I tried so hard to make that work, and it just didn't. And it was devastating to me when that marriage failed. And I married Tony 21 years ago now, and we're just a perfect fit. And I'm so grateful that I found him. But I had to be prepared to find him. But one thing that I found in my family history that just gave me this stamp that it was okay, that I wasn't a failure for life because that marriage failed, was when I found out that my own grandmother, who I adored growing up, this record popped up 20 years after she passed away. And I found out she was married for a short time before she married my grandfather in the 1920s, and never talked about it. And I found out that not a single person in my family knew.
Goodness.
They just didn't talk about it at all. But for me to know that about this woman that I revered, that was the epitome of grace and charity and goodness and just love, I just felt like, wow, she overcame that. I overcame that. If I can be anything like her, I'm on the path to becoming like her.
Absolutely. Well, and you have her DNA, so you can do it.
Yes, I do.
Exciting stuff. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much for coming on today and taking this time here. I'm excited. You've definitely inspired me, and I will do everything I can to get this message out, because that's what I love to do. So anyway, thank you, Wendy.
Honor.
Thank you. All right. Our guest today has been Wendy Spooner. She's the author of the book, Once Upon an Irish Summer, as well as the owner of the company Know My Roots, Genetic Genealogy. Be sure and look her up. I'll post her website and everything and contact information in the description of the show. But this has been, we've all been edified by this interview here. And please don't sit on this. Take the time, especially if you're still kind of in limbo with the coronavirus out there and everything. Take the time to research these things while you're there at your home. But this has been Resilience. I'm your host, Brad Neufeld. We're on weekly on the Resilience Talk Network. And if you want to find out more about what we do and our mission and purpose, look up resiliencetalk.com. That's resiliencetalk.com. You can also find us on Facebook and any other social media. And we even have a YouTube channel now, which I'm excited. That's something I've been not dreading, but it's been something else to set up, but it's there. Also, we can bring you this powerful information. But if you want to know more and how you could be on the show, email me at info@bradjneufeld.com. That's info@bradjneufeld.com. Or again, get on the website and you can contact me that way. But guys, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.